Welcome, beautiful friends. Let me try that again. I'm all choked up with love. You ready? Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery. We're going to wrap up lesson number 5 tonight, the keys to the kingdom. Who remembers the keys? Desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. So tonight as we wrap up, we're going to talk a lot about surrender, because that's the final stage. It's nice to have my nose on. I haven't worn it much for Way of Mastery. But it's just a reminder that when we take things seriously, we're only listening to the ego. The spirit is playful. It is never serious about anything. So when you're serious and things feel heavy, you know it's time to relax, because we're taking something and interpreting it in a way that God doesn't share our point of view. Plenty of noses on the other side of the fireplace if anybody wants to take one home. Those of you who are couples or who are trying a relationship out with somebody, try the noses. Because if you can't laugh at each other when things get too serious, or you can't say to your mate, you know, it might be a good time for you to put your nose on. I think you're getting a little too serious. If you can't do that, then you might really want to consider, is that a relationship you want to be in? Because it's going to be one based in seriousness. That might be a short relationship or a long, painful one. But if it's one based in laughter, it doesn't matter whether it's short or long, it's going to be fun anyway. So, here we go. Are we ready to get started tonight, honey? Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm missing something. Wow, the house is crowded tonight. The One Who Wakes Theater is full. We're having fun with the Way of Mastery, aren't we? And we get to do this for 35 lessons, and we're only on 5. We got 30 more of these to go. Woo-hoo! How much fun is that? Ready, honey? We'll start with the pathway axioms. For those of you who are new, sorry I cut you off, honey. For those of you who are new, in the first 2 lessons, and including this lesson, he gave us 4 axioms. And an axiom is simply a starting point for a logical argument. Or not argument, but a logical train of thought. And these are important axioms. They're not just ideas. They're ideas we need to come to live if we're going to awaken. And if we don't live them, we're really living by the ego's perceptions of the world. So these are really important. Cindy?
I am as my Father created me to be. I am free, and nothing sources my experience but me at each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore, how to live fully. The only relationship which holds any value at all is your relationship with God, your creative source.
Thank you, honey. Well, yeah, we'll skip the axioms since we just did them. So I always, at the beginning, pull a little bit out of each one of these. Tonight on number 1, we're going to talk about nothing sources my experience but me, and nothing has an effect on me. Who feels so powerful that you created a whole cosmos in order to have this experience? Well, we all did. We did that jointly together to have this experience, but nothing sources my experience but me. So all the things that you think are outside of you that have the power to affect you, whether it be handguns or poisons or what's that stuff they say that put in food that makes you sick? MSGs, GSPs? GMOs, whatever all that stuff is. So we believe that there are things outside of us that have a power over us to create and affect our experience. Absolutely untrue, except that we've taken our infinite power as Christ and we've given it away to things outside of us so that we could have an experience of what is it like to be separate and frail and fearful and experience death and all that kind of stuff. The truth of the matter is, we are as God created us. We're infinitely powerful. We are immortal, and I don't mean physically immortal, just we're eternal. Our spirit can never be damaged. It can't be enhanced. It can't be degraded in any way whatsoever. So even in the experience of separation, we're still using our power to make ourselves seem powerless. That's the cosmic joke of the whole thing. We're using our divine power that has always been creating experience across infinite realms and across eternity to have this experience. So we haven't actually lost anything. We just believe that we have. And because our minds are so powerful, when we believe we have, we create an experience that seems very, very real. So nothing sources our experience except us, and nothing can affect us except that which we choose to allow to affect me. So all of you out there who are letting the nightly news affect you and piss you off, why? Why would you let a little box with pictures on it and sound coming out have the power to change your state of being? Why would you let a week of incessant rain get you in the downers because you just want to see some sunshine? Think of the things that you allow to have power over you. You'll start to really laugh at it. You'll go, oh my gosh, I let a dent in the cereal box, or the fact that it wasn't rolled up and the tab put just right when it was put back on the shelf, I've given that the power to piss me off. Or the toilet paper's backwards on the roll, or the toothpaste wasn't squeezed from the right end. We've all got these crazy little things in our minds. We give so much power to these things outside of us, and then it brings Christ to our knees and we bow down to things outside of us. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I need do nothing. I'm going to take nothing tonight and break it into no thing. Because there are no things. There's one being, and everyone and everything is it. For those of us who have been on a path, some of us have been professional seekers. We're really efforting to if I just get the right thing, the right book, or I do the right thing, the right meditation, then I'm going to get the big thing, God. Well, God is a no thing. If you're searching for God in things, even in spiritual experiences, you're missing the point completely. Because God is the one no thing that there is. In the Tao, he just said, oh, you can't even name it. And that's the truth. Any word you try and put on it incredibly, infinitely diminishes the truth of what it is. So look at the times you're looking for salvation or happiness or peace or joy in things. Because we think we're a thing. We've forgotten that we're a being, and we think we're a thing, so we tend to look for other things because that's what we're familiar with. So just look, where are you looking for salvation in things? And are you willing to kind of look at that differently? I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive. Forgiveness is one of the concepts that got so distorted from Yeshua's teachings 2,000 years ago, and it became this thing that you've done something bad to me, now I have power over you, and I'm going to choose to forgive you or not. And you're in the shitter until I choose to forgive you. Or we think we've done something to someone else, and we're like having to beg for their forgiveness. That completely misses the point of what Yeshua was talking about. Forgiveness is recognizing the separation never happened, none of these things have ever happened, and the consequences, consequently, aren't important either. But to learn how to forgive is recognizing the ways in which you have taken your infinite being and given it away, and made yourself small, and made yourself limited, and made yourself fearful. Forgiveness is recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm limiting the Christ with this belief. I'm going to let this go. Wow, the light is in the house tonight. So for those of you, are we still online?
Appears to be.
Okay. Well, so all we lost was the projector. Will you try the button again, Stephen? Okay, well, you guys are just going to have to listen tonight. I think we blew the bulb in the projector. So I'm going to have to read really small. I've got all kinds of help tonight. I'm going to take my nose off because it's hard to read. And the only relationship that holds any value, and what I'm going to pull out tonight is value. Look at all the places in your life where you place value on, go back to number 2, on things. Rather than looking for the one no thing, which is infinitely valuable, the only thing that really matters, we put value on things. And your mind has all kinds of databases of how you assign value. A VW versus a Mercedes-Benz, non-organic versus organic, 7-day vacation versus 2. We put value and judgments across everything. And all of that is happening within our separated consciousness. The one being doesn't bifurcate itself and start judging itself in all kinds of different ways. That's all part of our separate mind. So for those of you who haven't been here before, we do the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. This is actually Jeshua channeling it. Don't worry about what the words say. Just sit back, and it's like a vocal orchestra. Just let it light you up vibrationally.
Avun, the Boshmaya, Nita Kadash Shama, Tete Malkuda, Neve Sivinach, Akina, the Boshmaya, O Baraha, Haulan, Lachman, Sunkanan, Yamana, Boshwoklan, Halpin, Akina, Dapanan, Shwakin, Il Hayabin. Ula talan mission el pasam membisha but had la hima kuda uhaila utish bhakta la alam amin amen.
Jeshua told me one time that there's not a soul, there's not an aspect of creation that has not seen his life, and especially the last little bit. In the cosmic sense, it's a very, very sacred and important movie that everybody gets to see. So everyone has heard that before. Whether you think you're just this body or you recognize your infinite beingness, it should be familiar to the base of your being. So this paragraph we actually did last week. Cindy's going to read it because if we just started the next one, we'd be like, what in the world's going on?
Genuine humility flows from the deep-seated recognition that you cannot save yourself, that you are created and not creator, that you are a effect and not cause in an absolute sense, that something called life is not yours, that there is something beyond your capacity of containment and intellectual understanding. And if that something ever decided to give up loving you, you would cease to be, that no matter how deep you go into the depth of God, and no matter how deep you achieve an awareness and consciousness of union with God, that what God is forever beyond your growing capacity to understand God. It is like an ocean of infinite depth. And when you realize that, strive as you might, you'll never wrap yourself, your little self, around that source. You will rest into humility, genuine humility.
This is a beautiful paragraph setting up this discourse he's going to start giving us about humility. But I know a lot of people on the spiritual path set awakening as like some target where all of a sudden they know everything. And it's just like in one instant it's done. You can certainly have some very big shifts, but eternity is never done. Recognize that it's not like you're going to get to some point and it's just over. That's ridiculous. Just be open to the ever-growing revelation. And the more open you are, the more you're willing to rest in the humility that you don't know, the more love shows up to inform you. And it's really important that when you have an experience, you can have some profound mystical experiences, that you don't intellectualize and conceptualize the experience and bring it all up into mind and give it all kinds of meaning, because what you really just did was put a roadblock right in front of the rest of your path. Have the experience, step off of the stone, if you will, and keep on going. Be grateful for it, but don't lug it around with you. I know folks that are lugging around 30-year-old spiritual experiences waiting to have that again. Well, it was 30 years ago. It ain't coming again. Drop it, let it go, and be open in humility to what might be revealed to you today.
And why is this important? Because, and mark these words well, as you progress along the path of the way of the heart, as you dissolve and loosen the shackles upon the mind, as the interior conflicts are healed and settled, as you begin to accept the abundance that the Father would bestow upon you in all levels of life and all levels of feeling and perception, as you begin to taste the grandeur and the greatness that would flow through you, you will discover that the enemies become more subtle. Every child views at some stage its parents as being its enemies, does it not? What do you mean I can't have the car tonight? What do you mean I must be home by 10 p.m.? The parent becomes the enemy. But that's a very immature and basic and naive level. As you move more and more into mastery, you will be sorely tempted to believe that you're done, that you'll be sorely tempted to believe, I can do this. The prayers I used to do when I began, the simple exercises of awareness I used when I started my path, I don't need them anymore. I've mastered that. Anytime you hear a voice within yourself saying, I'm done, you may rest assured you are not, and you stand in danger of losing what you've gained.
I like when he says, mark these words well. I mean, he's telling us that something's very important. As you progress along the path and the way of the heart, as you dissolve and loosen the shackles of your mind, and those shackles, if you will, the prison that we've put our mind in, is our creation, not God's. It's our beliefs, it's our limiting thoughts, it's our judgments, it's our fears that are those shackles. And we put them on ourselves. If you're fearful, just look at how often you think fearful thoughts. You any wonder why you're dragging fear around with you? Well, you've mastered thinking fearful thoughts over and over and over. And as the interior conflicts are healed and settled means they'll just be finished. It's not like you're going to put a new judgment on them and determine yourself right about your judgments now, divinely right as you start to wake up. You just let them go. You let go of the whole idea of judgment. And you begin to accept the abundance that the Father would bestow upon you at all levels of life. Now that's a big promise. It's God's pleasure to give us the kingdom. That's what He created His offspring for, was to give all to. And many people get on a spiritual path and all of a sudden they start throwing parts of their life away, like they can't have joy and abundance in parts of their life because they deem them not spiritual. He's saying life. He's not bifurcating it and saying, oh, only in your spiritual life. He's saying in the wholeness of your life and in all levels of feeling and perception. We don't transcend perception until right near the end of any spiritual path. So your perceptions and your feelings will be illuminated. They will be shown to you in a very different light. And the Father would bestow them upon you. Bestow is to give a gift. Not that you have to earn it and run up to your Father and say, I've been such a good Christ. I did all these really great things and I've done all my forgiveness. It's God's pleasure to give it. We have to let go of the idea that we have to earn it and just be willing to open and receive what is God's pleasure to give us. It's our own inheritance. We really just put it like in escrow while we went off to play with ego. So it's God's pleasure to bestow it, to gift it to us. It's already been gifted. We shackled ourselves and blocked it out of our awareness. So it's not something to be earned. If you're trying to earn it, recognize that you first had to deny that it's yours in the first place, and you're actually working and reinforcing the denial of it. But this thing about the enemies will become more subtle. And I've heard this a million times. People have some kind of experience and they start to recognize that they're light, and then they want to send light everywhere. Oh, I want to send light to that person. I want to send light to that one. I want to send light to that one. It's really spiritual arrogance. Because the truth is, no one has less light than you. If you think you have more to give, wake up. Because you're seeing a difference that doesn't exist. You have perceptions that still need to be healed. A blessing, by the way, is not a giving of anything. It's merely a recognition of the truth of them. It's not an exchange that takes place. It's simply recognizing they are Christ. They are whole. They have everything right now. They may be acting like they don't. You can certainly move the Spirit with great compassion to embrace their dream, but don't think you have anything to give anyone else. Because if you think you've woken up and now you're different than everyone else, you haven't woken up at all. Awakening eliminates all difference. It just creates absolute sameness in the oneness. So it's subtle because you think, I'm doing such a benevolent thing. I'm doing such a good thing. This is such a spiritual thing. We even get together in big groups to do this. But recognize that there's some underlying current that someone over there is not who they truly are. And you need to give them something so that they will be that. They already have it. They're playing a game. We can certainly love them, but we can't really give them anything because they have it already. But these subtleties get subtler and subtler and subtler. Lucy, our friend's been with us since our first retreat, and this is what we've been working on, is these subtleties. Subtle, subtle, subtle beliefs that don't rise up in your consciousness as some big nasty judgment. So you don't even think. You think they're just benign and benevolent. But they're still separating you from the kingdom. You still have to leave the truth to even hold a high spiritual belief. So it's really important that you allow your God's free reign within your being. You know, Jesus used a buzzer with me. You know, every time I would have a thought that was something subtle like this, I'd hear him in the background and I'd know. I mean, he had to explain the first ones to me, but then I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I'll just be still. And the truth would emerge on its own. we're not going to go very deep into this immature and naive level. I think we're all past the fact that we're mad at God and like God owes us something. If you are, then this is the level you're at. We need to do some work on that. But he shared with me his experience when he started to be able to heal. It was really tempting to perceive his self as the healer. And look at what I can do. But of course, the Gospels are very clear on the fact that he never took any credit for that. He said, my Father does these things through me. Love is that which does all this healing. But look within. If you're really honest with yourself, you'll recognize you got on a spiritual path because you wanted some powerful mojo. I did. I wanted to be bam, slam a healing guy and all that kind of stuff. You know, you have to get yourself humbled, and God will, love will humble you. Whether it's a dark night of the soul or, I got humbled with humor. And I would certainly encourage you, if you're going to be humbled, doing it in a light and fearless way with laughter is a very good way to become humble. So just be ready, because of ourselves we really can't do anything. And if we think we can, we're deceiving ourselves, which is okay, but you're really just throwing your power away by thinking you have some. And if you think you're done, you're not. And your mind will want to tell you time after time after time you're done. Because it wants you to be done. It wants you to stop. Because if you go any further, it's going to get dissolved ever deeper, ever deeper, ever deeper.
Humility is the recognition that the more you move into mastery, the more there is the desire for discipline and vigilance. Discipline does not mean doing something hard that you don't like to do. Discipline is like the skill of an artist that cultivates and refines the skill simply out of the deep desire and delight to create more beautifully. That's all. To discipline a muscle is done by an athlete so that the muscle works even more beautifully than it did the day before, out of the sheer delight to extend greater beauty into the world. Therefore, the discipline of the mind that is required is to recognize that while the body lasts, and indeed, while you remain in existence, the creations of consciousness that are unlike love have created a whole lot of vibratory patterns that would just love to put you down. It is the recognition that there can be a delight in consciously repeating the decision to teach only love, and to selectively choose only the vibrational patterns in your consciousness, to be allowed into your consciousness that reflect the truth and the beauty and the worthiness of who you are.
I got a tip for you. If everyone can simply do vigilance for the kingdom as well as we do vigilance for ego, bingo, you'll wake right up. Jeshua told us to be vigilant for the kingdom. That's vigilant for peace, unity, harmony, love, abundance, joy. Put all those kind of things on it. But we run around vigilant for the ego. I mean, if you're on Facebook, just watch some of this Neo-Veda stuff that runs around. Whoa! There's not vigilance for peace there. There's vigilance for slicing words this way and that way and making them very, very, very specific and all kinds of that stuff. And this is one that I helped Marion with. She was being vigilant for what the ego thoughts were. Who gives a shit what the ego thoughts are? Be vigilant for peace. Be vigilant for the kingdom. Be vigilant for what's true about you. We've all seen this. Someone who makes something difficult look absolutely effortless. How about Michael Jordan on a basketball? How about Salvador Dali, who just with nothing, bam, there's this big painting. Because they've cultivated a skill of accessing a vibration where it just flows. The thinker, the doer is out of the way, it just flows. So you come to cultivate the ability to master holding a vibration or holding a frequency. It's just kind of like tuning a radio. You can get it really specific and then you learn the vigilance of holding that and not moving over, because if you watch your thoughts, they're random as can be. I mean, there are happy ones, there are negative ones, there are past ones, future ones, all over the place. And that's because you haven't learned to discipline the mind and hold it steady, like a laser beam in focus. And when you become vigilant for the kingdom, you'll do that. You'll become vigilant for just the frequencies of peace. And you'll even move higher where all you do is listen. You master listening to the inner voice for love, whether you want to call that the voice of God or the Holy Spirit or your inner guide or Antaryaman or whatever name you want to put on it. That's the discipline to master, because you only hear loving thoughts. You know, I only can tune in and hear Yeshua's thing, so I don't have to listen to crappy John Mark thoughts running around in my mind, because I just hear the truth. I don't have to worry about trying to discern, because this vigilance, this mastery is really important. And nobody can do that for you. Nobody can do that for you. Right now, you guys can all think of 5 shitty thoughts like that. And you can also think 5 Christed thoughts like that. You already have the capacity to move your consciousness multidimensionally across all kinds of frequencies. You've just not learned the discipline of how to hold it in one place. And if you watch your thoughts, they like chase each other. One thought comes and then it connects to another one, and it's like, how 10 thoughts later did you get from this point to this point? It's crazy. But that's because you become a follower rather than holding what it is you want. So mastery is really important for vigilance for the kingdom. Not vigilance for the illusion, or vigilance for the ego, or vigilance for what's wrong, or vigilance for what's bad, or what needs to change. That's all ego vigilance. But if you've done that really well, at least recognize you already know how to do it. It's just a matter of new frequencies. It's a matter of, you did a dialogue on the radio stations, like the push button ones in your car. There are lots of frequencies. You can listen to love, you can listen to ego, you can listen to suffering, you can listen to pain, you can listen to health problems. Well, which of those are you going to pick? You're free to pick whichever ones you want. Right now you can do it. You already have the skill because you're Christ. You've just let your vigilance, your mastery of it, be used for separateness. So it's not about being hard about it. If you try to bear down in your mind, those of you who tried to cram for lessons or cram for tests in college, bearing down oftentimes isn't a very effective tool with the mind. The mind works best when it's open, free, and spacious. Delight in consciously repeating the decision to teach only love. I bet I've heard him say teach only love, I don't know, 1,000,000 times. It's like a generic, it's like his answer to everything. What should I do in this situation? Teach only love. Well, what about this? Teach only love, teach only love, teach only love. And that's how you learn to teach only love, because you keep listening and you focus your consciousness there. So nothing is allowed into your consciousness that you don't let in. If you think there are demons running around in there, well, you open the door and let them in. You're welcome to open the door and let the Holy Spirit in. You control it. There is nothing outside of you that's controlling your individual consciousness, those thoughts that you hear. And you are, you're worthy of just thoughts of truth and beauty. Can you imagine how happy you would be if you didn't have a crappy thought all day long, a fearful thought all day long? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, you can do it because you're the one thinking the crappy thoughts anyway. So change your mind.
Judgment cannot reflect such light. Anger and hatred cannot do it. Fear and paranoia, fear of rejection, fear of the opinion of others, such vibrations can never reflect the regalness, the greatness, the grandeur of your being. Therefore, understand well that humility is absolutely essential. For paradoxically, as greatness is expressed through you, the temptation still is to allow egoic energies to make a home in your mind. And the ego voice will say, "Boy, you're really quite a master, you know. You really deserve all this adulation. Why don't you keep 10% of it for yourself?" A master accepts the love offered, the gratitude offered by those whom his or her teachings have touched, and gives it all to God, recognizing that of themselves these things could not have been done. I learned, too, to be tempted, and when those would come to me who were sick found healing in my presence, it was very tempting to want to say, "Yes, look what I've done. I've really earned this. I spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. I've been to India and Tibet. I've been to England. I've studied with all the masters of Egypt. Yes, I really deserve to be seen as a healer and a teacher."
3 or 4 paragraphs, he said, if the source didn't think about you, you'd cease to exist. It's kind of arrogant to say you're the healer, you're the doer of anything. Just remember that you didn't create your own existence. None of you really know how you do anything. How does your body do anything that it does? I mean, do you have to bother thinking about all that? Or is the Creator simply not bestowing that for you? I wonder how often we're grateful for that. That so much bestowing happens and is taken care of in this body that oftentimes we judge so harshly. Where does he say there? The regalness, the greatness, and the grandeur of your being, capital B, being. Wow. Wouldn't it be nice to walk around as that being? But the trick is, when you recognize that about your being, all of a sudden it's true for everybody else. You don't get to strut down the street because everybody is beautiful and regal and worthy of the whole thing. All of that just disappears because whatever is true for you has to be true for the others. He's said in a later lesson, or in one of the channelings I heard that he shared with me, the master is only a master because the master has mastered always being a student. Always resting in, I don't know, Father, what is thy will? Do that through me. The fact that he was healing, all he really knew how to do was say, Father, I don't know how to do this, you do this. I mean, he shared with me that when he went to do the fishes and loaves, he's like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And he turns to God, and there it happens. Because we really don't know. So how empty are you willing to be? How empty can you make your cup of self and your own identity and your own intellect and your own knowing so that love can fill you to overflowing and inform everything that is done through you? Not that you do it, but that you allow it to be done through you.
But I learned through humility to remember the simplicity that of myself I can do nothing. I cultivated within my heart the art of always being a student of love and not the professor of love who thinks he's done just because he has a lot of letters after his name. So you see that as you progress, and as you allow more of the abundance of God's love to flow through you, you see you begin to stand up out of the crowd, and you begin to attract those that want the light. And as that occurs, you must practice discipline and vigilance by remembering humility always, until you are remembering it with every breath. And why? If you are living in this world and feel that no one looks up to you, no one takes you as authority, there is only one reason. You have resisted the truth of your being, and through denial have pushed God's light away out of your fear, your deep-seated fear that you might appear to be different than everyone else. And the world would teach you to be a doormat, so that if you fit in and don't ruffle anybody's feathers, but as you become empowered, one way you'll know that it's occurring is that some people don't like you. You'll push their buttons just by walking into the room, for darkness abhors light. It's that simple.
I like that he's poking fun of all our certificates and all our degrees and all our titles and all our specialness that makes us different from someone else. Well, I can tell you there are 5 letters after everybody's name. Christ. Is that 5 or 6? Christ. 6 letters after everybody's name. So we're all perfectly equal. But the point is, it's not in what we learn or do within the world. It's how open we are to allowing the abundance of God's love to flow through us. You go over to India, there's some saints that are completely, Ramana Maharshi had 0 education. None. But he was a perfect channel for God's love. And people came to sit in his presence and awoke simply by sitting in the silence with him. It's not about intelligence. If have enough intelligence to go, I don't know. Father, your will be done. If you got that much intelligence, that's all you need. Remembering humility with every breath. And he said, this is really easy. I can make this real easy for you. He said, do you breathe yourself? No, I don't even do that. All I can do is resist it. That gets pretty uncomfortable pretty quick. So the humility is a recognition, oh my gosh, I don't even have to think about breathing. He just thinks it's beautiful the way that breathing sense was made the one that we could do some voluntary action with, but we couldn't do it completely. That's why it's such a beautiful pathway, a beautiful opening into the Spirit. Because you see, when you're not allowing, you're actively in resistance. So it's easy to be humble with every breath when you recognize, oh my gosh, it's just being bestowed upon me. And it's being bestowed upon every one of us. Is anybody here worried there's not going to be a breath for you next week? Is anybody hoarding up their breaths and putting them away for a breathless day? The nature of God's abundance is right here, right now, and everybody is bestowed all that they need, all that they will open and receive. And he does a lot of breath work. He's going to talk about that a little in the next lesson, about letting the breath, inviting God to breathe you all the way to the depth of your being. If you watch your breath, oftentimes it's very shallow. If you're really whirling away with thinking, you probably just stop breathing. It's about inviting love to bestow the breath all the way in the depth of your being. And that's, again, opening up and releasing blocks that we unconsciously have. So the breath is this beautiful thing, because you'll see when you're asserting control over the natural rhythm, and your control is always in resistance. When you let go of control is when the body very naturally breathes and does its thing. So humility in your breath is an easy one. Doesn't everybody want to be an authority? Don't we sometimes try and talk louder just so that people will think we're speaking with power? Or how about when your parents accused you of lying and you had to throw a big fit, protest us a wee bit too much? True power doesn't need to be grandiose and verbose and in that way. It's like Ramana Maharshi again. It's a very, very powerful just state of being. It's really, really cool. And if you're not doing that, of course, we're just pushing God's love away. And we all had to do it, so don't feel bad about it. We all had to do it in order to have this experience of separation. How else do we feel unworthy or not good enough or abandoned or sickly or, poor? Because we pushed it away. Because how else could we have that experience? If the God's love was present, we couldn't even have those experiences. So it's cool that we can push it away. What's cool is that we can stop pushing and let it back. And we can accept all that abundance back, not through action, but through stopping the denial, stopping the pushing. And this is what's hard for us, because we think we have to do. And he's telling us, you can't really do it. It's all you're doing that's in the denial. Can you just stop? Rest, relax, and let it come. And darkness abhors the light. Jeshua could walk in a room or in a temple and ego backs went up, because they couldn't intimidate him. They couldn't silence him. They had no power over him. No threat was going to create fear within him. You know how powerful it is to be absolutely undisturbable? Absolutely at peace? That'll push some people's buttons without even doing anything. That'll push people's buttons. This thing about being a doormat, there's a lot of stuff in spirituality about love allows everything. It does. But you don't wake up to be a doormat for a bunch of angry, pissed off, sleeping people. It's not at all about being a doormat. I mean, what fun would be awake to God's love if that just meant you had to get trampled on by everybody else? But it's no longer a denial. It's no longer a forceful thing. You can be very powerful in peace. And a no from a place of peace is really powerful. Have you ever tried it? Try a no from a place of peace. Because the thing is, you say yes to peace first, and a yes to peace always allows for a no. But if you say no to peace first, you're never going to get to a yes. So start with the yes to peace, and then let the no's come if they need to be no's. He said 2,000 years ago, let your no's be no's and your yeses be yeses. How many of us are no's and they instantly become a maybe? Or we say yes and then it's, oh shit. When you come from peace and you let love move through you, they'll be what they are. You two are good at this, I know. You guys do it with each other. So just know and that as the light begins to express through you, you will push people's buttons. But he said earlier, if you're attached to how other people perceive you, you're going to have a rough, rocky road. Because you recognize if they're having their buttons pushed, those are their choices. And you just be who you are and let love move through you and do the things that love is going to do, and you got to let go of what it looks like out there. You know, when people come to sit with me, sometimes they leave crying, sometimes they leave happy. I just know it's perfect either way. Because they're getting out of it whatever experience they're getting out of it. I know a lot of people keep thinking, oh my gosh, if they're not happy with me, I've done something wrong. I'm not very Christed. Well, remember, there were a lot of people very pissed off at Jeshua. So much so that they put him on the cross. Because the darkness abhors the light. That which is not powerful resents true Christed power. So when that starts to happen, especially if it happens in close quarters with your family, you know, that's a beautiful opportunity. The Spirit will move you ever deeper into humility, ever deeper into letting go of all those special relationships. It's beautiful and powerful.
Humility is absolutely essential. Through the doorway of humility, the light of power can be turned on through you in ever greater voltages. And if that voltage doesn't seem to be flowing through your mind, look well to see if you are remembering humility and giving yourself to it. For the light of God can only shine through you to the degree that you are willing to take responsibility for it, which involves giving the fruits of it back to its source and not claiming it as your own. And when you can claim nothing for yourself, all things flow through you. And the Holy Spirit can gather millions of beings to come to you in many planes, because it knows you will not distort the love of God by usurping God's position and putting yourself upon the throne.
When this came up and I asked Jeshua about this helping other beings on other planes, he showed me at night one time some of what that is, because your being is not confined to this expression. You're expressing literally in every potential domain that there is. So the expression of I am, which you are, which is the I am, which is all that I am is, everywhere. Even though it's one, it still has individuated expression, not individual, but individuated expression. And everybody, he'll talk about it later in this pathway. If you're reading this pathway, You have a list of beings that have been assigned to you. And when you accept the atonement, they'll start to seek you out. Look what happened in my living room. And that's just in this plane. Because the fullness of your power, the fullness of your being, not just your little tiny body-mind temporary expression, will be put to this use. But your little body-mind has the power to disrupt the whole thing by not waking up or by being special or by trying to usurp the throne and take credit for all of it. And it's tempting to do because the world's taught us, wow, if you get a great idea, go out and patent it so you get all the benefit. The ironic thing is, intellectual property, there's only one source. There's only one source. It's crazy that we think we have individual right to ideas when there's one mind out there that's doing them all. Have you ever noticed when they're like Nobel Prize things, people on opposite sides of the planet seem to get the idea at the same time? It's just because finally someone's risen to that vibrational level, and there it is. It was always there. It's not like they discovered anything. They just finally rose high enough to see the truth that was already there because it's only one mind. So this whole thing about trying to claim ownership and possession goes completely away. And look at places where you really hold on to mine. The whole spiritual path is your I and me shifts. What I and me means to you shifts dramatically. And mine, M-I-N-E, goes completely away. Because you recognize, of myself I can do nothing. I have no possessions. Not even the body is your possession. It's all the Creator's. It's all an expression of that one source. So it takes very deep humility to do that. Because we think we actually gain by claiming a skill or an idea or a concept or something for ourselves. And all of that is fear-based. All of that's the ego trying to continue the idea of specialness. And we all got our chance on the throne. And I don't know anyone, well, we'll just ask, is anyone in this room in the game of separation with yourself on the throne thinks everything is just peachy, hunky-dory, peachy, perfect? Well, then get off of the throne and let the Father back on the throne. He's always been there. You just tried to make a faux throne, a fake one. But just let the Creator be the Creator. And let that love that He desires to bestow upon you to flow through you. And then just sit back and marvel. You'll be on the front row for miracle after miracle after miracle. And you won't want to miss a one. That number 3 about staying present gets really easy.
Humility is a chief characteristic to cultivate. Therefore, when you pray, indeed ask for greatness. Let the Father know that you are ready for the fullness of Christ to be incarnate, and simply hold the promise within you that will always remember that you are not the doer and the maker. You are merely the one who has come to recognize that only the love of God can fulfill you as a soul. Only the fulfillment of your purpose to be a channel for love can bring you the success that you truly seek. When you are fully committed to that, rather than being committed to wondering about other people's opinions, then that power can begin to move through you.
So here we go about being worried about other people's opinions. Just look, that comes in overt and really, really subtle ways. Just look what's happening in your mind when you're standing in the closet picking out what you're going to wear for the day. Somewhere underneath that, there's this sense of, oh, I look good in this, so I'm going to get more attention from something out there. It's in your consciousness more than you'll ever know. So just really start to look at that. Because, of course, love is going to move through you for love's purposes. I mean, when Jeshua was here, he said such radical things that he was killed for it. But he couldn't be killed. Bam! He was back to prove his point. But the point is, how open are you to letting love use you as the vehicle for love? What limitations and restrictions are you putting on the infinite so that you can say, no thanks, Father. I don't want to be big. I don't want to be grand. I don't want to be grateful. I had someone come to sit with me one time, and I said, would you like some water? And they said, yeah, I'll have a little. And he's asking us to ask for the whole enchilada. Not little. I mean, little water, if we're not worthy enough of a full glass of water, how worthy are we to say, Father, I'll accept the wholeness of the kingdom? And just look at the ways in which, oh no, meekness, that's not the meekness he talked about. The meek that will inherit the earth are these that will say, I will accept the fullness of God's love. Absolutely all of it. And not be a separate maker and doer, not be out for a separate being. So next time you think you're the maker and the doer, just contemplate when you're on the toilet. Did you make or do any of that that's happening? Nope. You can watch it. You can amaze at it. You can wonder how in the world does any of that happen. But even on the most basic levels, you're not doing anything except watching.
When you are willing to let go of the world, heaven will come to replace it. When you're willing to let go of your need for egoic grandness, true grandeur will begin to pour forth through you. There is a paradox within spirit. Learn to discern it. Become a master of it. And never neglect the need for discipline based on the foundation of humility. You see, this is what has caused you to fear the energy of desire, because in the past, and that can go back a long way, you have decided to find out what it would be like to let all of that power be claimed as your own, to be used to serve the voice of ego. And that is what you are afraid of. But if you cultivate these stages and found them in humility, you will never need to fear the misuse of desire. Therefore, in your prayers, as often as you can remember to do so, remember that what you decree is, so speak clearly within yourself. Source, Creator, God, Goddess, all that is, Abba, I am ready to be what you created me to be. I choose to remember that I am effect and not cause. Thy will be done, knowing that your will is my full happiness. Reveal then that path through which that happiness can be known, for my way has never worked, but your way always does.
Thank you, honey. So again, beautiful stuff in this one little prayer. Source, Creator, God, Goddess, all that is, Abba. So get over your name issues, whatever those are. Just put in whatever it is you like. Don't let the ego create a barrier to love because you've got an issue with the masculinity of God or, whatever. Just dump all that. Put a word in there that you like. Put a blank in there if you want. Whatever it is, just don't have a beef about it. I am ready to be what you created me to be. The inference in there is that God's always been ready. When are we ready? We're the ones that are in denial of it. I don't think God's up there denying, well, he's not up there, but everywhere that God is, God's not denying being God. But we're denying that we are one with Him. That we are the source, the created through which all that love can be expressed. And that we are an effect and not a cause. And you got to look past the body-mind thing that you were born because of some event that seemed not to be in your control. But who created their mind? Anyone? How do you create consciousness? Can anyone here create pure awareness? Can anyone hold out her hand and manifest a form? All humanity's ever been able to do is to alter and change what creation already created. Because only creation can create. And Jeshua showed us when you surrender to that, creation will joyfully create through you. When we are humble enough to get out of the way. Thy will be done, knowing that your will is my full happiness. This is one that you really need to look in your consciousness because we all hold the belief that God's will for us is not full happiness. Well, why all the loss? Why all the suffering? Why all the poverty? Why all the starving? Why? The ego wants to blame all those creations on God. We created those things when God said, go knock yourselves out, whatever makes you happy. We came up with those crazy ideas. So the ego constantly wants to blame those on God because the ego doesn't want to go, oh my gosh, I am the Christ, and I, through my choices to play separation, am the creator of all this, and I've blamed it on God rather than being grateful that God gave me the freedom even to screw up this badly, even to have this experience. So God's will for you is full happiness, not just for a week until a bill shows up. Full, total, complete, unlimited, undisturbable happiness. That's what's called bliss. Undisturbable happiness. That's God's will for you. I wonder if you wouldn't get your will out of the way, because we run around not happy all the time because we're exerting a separate will. And when we block out love, that's why we suffer. That's why we're angry. That's why we're pissed off, because we're blocking it. We're not allowing it to flow. And reveal then, not I know the way to you, Father. Reveal then to me the path through which that happiness can be known. Known. Not intellectualized, not conceptualized, but known experientially. It's kind of like a strawberry. If you haven't had a strawberry, nobody's dissertation about it can convince you what a strawberry is. Your mind might go, I know, I think I got it, it's kind of like this, it's kind of like that. You can create approximation, but you can't know until you experience that strawberry for yourself. Knowing, not a concept about God, not a theology, whether it's out of A Course in Miracles or a Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or anything, the Upanishads, whatever, anything. That's a lousy substitute for the truth. And oftentimes the mind wants you to stop it. I get it intellectually, because if you go further, there's no mind there. You go into the knowing, the direct experience of the truth. So the way that happiness can be known, mean experienced and lived, for my way has never worked, but yours always does. My way sucked. I was terrible at my way. I tried like crazy. I tried every which way under the sun. I tried all kinds of self-improvement. Well, the ego never gets self-improved. Ever. It can't. We can convince ourselves that we've become a little less suffering, a little less pissed off, a little less angry, but He's offering us absolutely full happiness. Do you have enough humility to go, my way sucks. My way's hard, my way's fearful, my way's manipulative, my way's controlling, my way's dominating, my way's deceptive. And actually turn and let love show us a new pathway. That's a very powerful prayer. And there's incredible depth in it.
Then in each day remember the energy of appreciation. It is well and good to appreciate one another, but in the privacy of your own meditation and prayer, appreciate how the power of that source of love I've called Abba or God is living and moving and breathing to bring the people, the books, the teachers, the experiences that are gently unraveling the cocoon of ego around you, awakening you to the truth and the beauty and the majesty and the grandeur and the greatness that is life itself, that wants to breathe through you as magically and powerfully as it breathes through a thunderstorm, or the leaf on a tree, or the radiance in a newborn baby's eyes. That life is what you are. That life is the presence of God's love, the depth of the ocean welling up into the waves of creation. Let therefore that life alone be your guide in all things, and rest in appreciation for the infinite mystery that life is, and say yes to it. Say yes to life, that you are willing to let the fullness of it wash through you and carry you into an ever-deepening understanding and comprehension of all that God is. And indeed, if you would well receive it, resting in the awareness of divine humility is the sweetest of experiences that you can ever know.
So surrender and rest, which is death to the ego, will lead you to the sweetest experiences you can ever know. That is very cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about the energy of appreciation. You hear gratitude, gratitude, gratitude all the time. So when I got to this point, I was talking to Jeshua about gratitude. And of course, my concept of gratitude was you've done something nice for me, or things have gone the way I wanted them to go, therefore I should be grateful. And if you didn't give me the present I wanted, or things aren't going the way I want, what the hell would I be? Why would I be grateful? So gratitude is balled up in judgment, just completely, because it's also got this whole energy of reciprocity. How many of you get a gift and immediately here comes the I got a gift guilt, like, oh shit, now I got to give something back? But we expect that. We think that's the norm. So what he taught me was, rather than this whole gratitude thing and trying to clean up that whole rat's nest of gratitude, how about just infinitude? You're grateful for all of it and you don't understand a bit of it. So I started to rest in infinitude. Gratitude for everything. Because there was no judgment in it. You just were grateful. You just were infinitely grateful. So you took judgment out of the mix. You took the ego's component of judging what to be grateful for and what not based on your crazy set of values, which we talked about earlier. Just infinitude. Grateful for all of it. And as my awakening came about and happened and progressed ever deeper, I saw this incredible line of pearls that had been strung. Even when I was trying to go left, love was guiding me back right. And all the experiences, no matter how I would have judged them and been pissed off and angry and even blaming God for them, all were so incredibly perfect. And I recognized if that was that perfect, when I was unhappy and bitter and angry that God was moving and shifting to get me to the point of awakening, that I could really rest in that infinitude, that nothing but perfection could greet me in every single moment. I didn't have to think about tomorrow because I knew love was going to take care of it. And whatever it was will be absolutely perfect. There's great, deep, deep peace in infinitude. You might try it on for a while because it's just the energy of thanks. Not forgetting, not because something you've done, just the recognition of I am, and that friggin' rocks. No matter what's happening, I am. Because we were all given the I am. That was bestowed on us. So try infinitude on for your life. This first paragraph, this is like spiritual poetry porn. I mean, it's really good stuff. I mean, you just want to read it over and over and over and over. Gently unraveling the cocoon of the ego around you and awakening you to the truth. How many people, some weird set of situation and circumstances, got the Course in Miracles to show up to your life? Cindy and I had dinner with some friends the other night, and she mentioned hearing a word, one word, by chance across a room, and ding! It was like hitting one of those really clear bells. Bing! Bam! Well, what did the universe have to coordinate to make that word come out of that person's mouth at just the right time to be within earshot? That kind of stuff is happening all the time. There's miracles going on all the time, and we rarely recognize them. Whew. But here we are back with the beauty, the majesty, the grandeur, and the greatness that is life itself. Whoops. Which is what you are, life itself. I mean, he's not making this just some little thing. He's really trying to get us to recognize the absolute grandeur of what we are, the infinite power, the infinite beingness, the incredible love and joy. And he wants you to breathe that power as it breathes through a thunderstorm. I mean, we've had a lot of those. We just had one a minute ago. You know how much power is in one of those things? And that's one little storm on one little planet in an infinite universe. I mean, he wants to completely recalibrate your whole perception of power, your whole perception of majesty and grandeur. It's just absolutely beautiful. And of course, it's breathing through a storm or a tree or in a newborn baby's eyes. And it's breathing through each and every one of you right now. It's that close. And it's that miraculous and it's that grandeur. If we can shut up the babble box in our mind that tells us we're something else, it dawns on us. And that's all awakening is. It's not you discover something new. You just go, oh my gosh, now I remember. It's right there. How could I have missed it? Whew. So you are the presence of God's love. But it's always going to be a mystery. Can you come to peace with not knowing? Look at the fear around not knowing. I mean, how many of us just fearful about whether somebody's going to come to visit or not come to visit or whether we're going to get paid next week? I mean, we rest in all this fear of the future rather than resting in the infinite not knowing and saying not knowing is okay. When I think I know, I'm in danger of being wrong. I'm starting to do it my way. That's incredible peace if your mind can actually let go, because then your mind has nothing to worry about because it's taken care of too. It's being bestowed upon. So enjoy the ever-deepening understanding and comprehension of God's love. There's not a day goes by that it's not revealed ever deeper. That's what Jeshua meant when he said, I, Christ, I, God, make all things new. It's never boring in heaven. It's not like a same old heaven. It's new every day and every experience. Something is being revealed. Some revelation is always being shared, and it's being given if you're quiet and open and still and humble and ready to receive.
Many of you look upon me going, ugh, where Jeshua abides, would I ever love to be there? Think a thought, and you're with someone. Think a thought, and you're in that universe. You never have to blink an eye because you don't have one. I tell you this, where I abide is in a vibrational frequency with many, many other beings whose consciousness never wavers for an instant from the deep appreciation and humility before the mystery of all that God is, the great delight of knowing that we live, yet not us, but our Creator lives as us. The only difference between being a master and being a student is that the master has mastered the art of always being a student. Think about that one. Desire, intention, allowance, surrender. What do you truly want? Are you willing to feel it and let that thread of desire carry you home? Can you remember to use time constructively by focusing your attention, by reminding yourself of what you're truly here for? You're not here to survive. You're here to live as the truth of who you are.
So I can assure you there's nothing that prohibits any being from abiding in this frequency or vibration where Jeshua abides. Save your mastery of that frequency. It's a nice time to just right now start with moving your consciousness and beginning to hone it, beginning to keep it in a place of stillness or love or loving thoughts or whatever it is you choose. Not one's not necessarily better than the other, but actually learn to control it rather than it just running all over the place and doing its thing and making a slave out of you. I know that's what the energy of depression is. I know some folks in here have been depressed. I was depressed at one point because you feel like you got zero control. I mean, because you've really just said, I'm going to play the deepest part of separation that I can. I want to go ahead and get this over with, so I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the bottom of it. and be as big a victim that I can't even control my thoughts. Getting out of bed is a big thing, but I can't even control my thoughts. But learning to do that and learning to have love flow through you. Because whatever channel you tune into, love's flowing. Are you the creator of the thoughts? I mean, right now, if I just ask you to all be still, will you know the next thought that's coming? Chances are you're surprised by it. You don't really know what's coming. So use time to hone that frequency, to hone vigilance, to be vigilant for the kingdom, for peace, for love, for God's will, not your will. Those are all things that you can very actively do, and you need to actively do. There's this mistake sometimes that this whole thing you talked about earlier in this lesson about cultivating the witness. Well, that's a very important thing. But then from the witness, because you're not caught up in as being the thinker, now you have control over what's happening. You can begin to allow and move your consciousness consciously, not unconsciously or sleepily. So you're here to live the truth of who you are. Not to make a lot of money, although you can do that being the truth of who you are. Not to see your grandkids. Not to be healthy. Not to be anything else. And I can assure you, is the deeper you get into awakening and you wake up to the fact that survival is never an issue. And that all you'll be doing throughout time is this mastery. Is this mastery of your being. Of how much of God's love am I willing to accept and willing to allow into my being. That's all Yeshua does. Is how much more of God can He allow in and through His being. How much of God can be revealed to Him and through Him to all of creation. So that's all we're going to be doing. So we might as well get on with it. It's like, how much of that happiness can you stand? Can you accept? So get on with it. I'm not saying that survival's not important, but if it's your priority, you might want to consider switching and allowing love to carry you home. But this whole thread of desire, we're fearful to feel desire. And when I really got open and was willing to feel my fear of my incompetence, my fear of failure, my absolute distrust of myself, to the very depth, the kind of stuff that you don't ever want to consciously feel, I could finally be honest enough with myself to be humble and say, help. But I had to allow the desire for the true incompetence of my egoic separate being to bust through my, I am the man, I can do it, I think positive thoughts, all that stupid shit, and really feel how desperately I wanted to quit. I wanted to absolutely surrender. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to be responsible for anything or anyone. But I had to allow those desires to come out of the darkness where the ego had suppressed them so that I had enough willingness and enough intelligence to absolutely and completely surrender. It wasn't comfortable, but it didn't take long. But it's about actually being authentic because we're scared to death. We don't even want to look on how scared we are in the fear. When you look on it, you'll recognize, I don't want to deal with this. I need help. I have made a mess of my consciousness, and I need some help to get out of this. But so long as you think, I got this, and really that just means I'm hiding something in my being I don't want to look at, we're trapped. So let the desire move through you. Once I got through the desire of how messed up and incompetent I was, then the true desire for God's love, the true desire to be provided for and taken care of arose naturally. Not from the ego wanting it for itself. My soul could actually express that because I got rid of all the, he called it dross earlier, that was kind of covering all that up. So don't be scared to feel that stuff because underneath it, behind it, there's incredible love. There's incredible opportunity if you'll actually move through that.
Allowance. Not a passive acceptance of things as they are, but a recognition that there is something quite beautiful at work. There is an intelligence, a love that knows you better than yourself, and is presenting you moment to moment with jewels and gems and lessons and blessings, that something is weaving the tapestry of your life and nothing is happening by accident. Surrender. The cultivation of the recognition that your happiness can be found only in the submission of your will to the will of God. For your will has been in conflict and struggle and limitation. The Father's will is that you live without conflict, in peace and joy and fulfillment and happiness. 'Tis called bliss. Humility. If you ever wonder how to anchor your awareness in humility, stop what you're doing and ask yourself this question. Did I create myself? You know darn well what the answer is. No. I don't even know when I was created. Something birthed me. What is it?
This allowance, not a passive acceptance of things as they are. And you hear in spiritual paths all the time, be with what is. Be with what is. Be with what is. There's a very important distinction. What he's getting at here is not a passive acceptance of what your mind thinks things are. Not believing the judgments and the fear and the condemnation and the lack and the scarcity. Not accepting that in your consciousness. You can accept, shit, it's a mystery. I don't know what any of it means. That's the start of wisdom. But not accepting what your separated mind decrees and defines and determines and says that things are. Do not accept that passively, or you are passively accepting your own imprisonment. Being with what is truly being with the mystery that God is being in incredible ways, in infinite ways, in all ways, and not having a clue about what any of it is, and saying, Father, what is the meaning here? Father, what is the purpose here? Father, what is being revealed to me in this situation or circumstance? Because that be with what is gets turned into an ego acceptance of being shitty and being mean and being bitter and allowing bad things to happen. And that's not at all what he's talking about. So it's really important that you take a look at that one, because the ego will gladly hijack this on a spiritual path and does it with lots and lots of people. You know, he didn't, when the lady's going to be stoned, well, shit, it's all an illusion, no big deal. I'm just going to be over here and be all blissed out by myself and let her get stoned. He didn't accept what appeared to be. He allowed love to move him in such a way that let those without sin cast the first stone, just stop the whole thing in its tracks. So it's a very important distinction here, and one that you'd be well advised to spend some time with your guides in spirit looking at this being with what is. But letting that intelligence and love guide you in all ways and reveal the jewels and gems that are there. You know, it's amazing what can be revealed when your kid's yelling at you. If you're willing to not take the body-mind's idea of what's happening and you say to the Father, what's being revealed here? How can I be loving here? How can I help with an awakening here? And you'll be amazed at the stuff that comes. It's just miraculous stuff, but you surrender your idea of what things are and what they mean and what shouldn't be happening and what should be. And when part of all my pearls being strung together was, wow, I had things in my life that I thought were terrible, but they were perfect. I needed them. Maybe another being seeming to have a bad experience, maybe that's exactly what they need. Who knows? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't purport to know, but I'm happy to ask and let love inform me. So allowance is allowing your mind to be corrected, allowing God's will to be expressed to you and through you, not just allowing the ego free reign willy-nilliness in your consciousness and in the world. Although many egos get to this point on a spiritual path and they think it's just carte blanche to do whatever they damn well please. Be mean and be judgmental and all kinds of stuff. Oh, I'm just allowing things to be as they are. That's bullshit. So surrender. is the cultivation of the recognition that your happiness can only be found, only in the submission of your little w will to the capital W will of God. I don't know, I chased it in money, sex, alcohol, recognition, power, control, nice house, lake house, boats, all kinds of things. Haven't we all chased it? Doesn't your mind have a list of things that, ooh, this would be it, this would be it, this would be it? You can accelerate your spiritual path if you'll just forget that ego list and recognize this is the only way that will do it. Otherwise, you're going to have to run down every one of those roads only to find out there's a goose at the end. And it's not a golden goose. Right, a goose chase and no tail feathers for you, Mark. So, the Father's will is that you live without conflict. And that means absolutely no inner conflict. Wow, that's really cool. You know how relaxed the body gets? The body almost feels spacious, fluid, weightless, because there's no tension anywhere within the body. That's really cool. No conflict, peace, joy, and fulfillment and happiness. You know, there's the whole story about Moses in the desert, the manna, that all that they needed was provided. Absolute fulfillment of God's love through you, which is significantly greater than anything we can come up with on our own. Because when I got to some of this stuff, I got really excited. I was like, ooh, I could get this, I could get this. And Jeshua was like, dude, you think your tiny little separated mind, the greatest thing you could ever think about in your wildest thought and imagination won't even register in God's mind. Will you just surrender trying to create it on your own and just let it be given to you more than you could ever conceive and ever imagine? It's like, yeah, that sounds like a great deal. I don't have to do anything except receive. You know, it's one of those too good to be true kind of things, but it's not. It is the truth. So, humility. Allowance, surrender, and humility. Humility's not hard unless you think you got your shit together. If you think you got your shit together, humility might not be very comfortable, might not be very welcome. But for those of you who think you have your shit together, wait till next week. All of a sudden it won't be so together, but you'll have a great plan to get your shit back together. So, humility.
That will bring you to humility rather quickly. Do you know how to give birth to a star? No. Do you know how to give birth to a leaf on a tree? No. Do you even know how to lift your hand from your lap? No. What then do you know? Nothing. Allow yourself to understand that you don't know anything. And in that state of divine ignorance, you will rest in a humility that finally allows your Creator to move through you and reveal to you all things. So, beloved friends, the way of the heart is the way that corrects perception and brings right-mindedness, so that you are no longer the maker and the doer and the director. Your opinions will come to mean nothing to you whatsoever, and out of grand emptiness you will discover a perfect peace, and life will bear you on its wings, and through you life will express in ever greater dimensionality the exquisite and infinite love and power and creativity that is God, until you swear that God is all there is, and there will be no place to find a trace of you. For if enlightenment is the ending of separation, how can there be a maker and doer? Can the wave direct itself? The ego is the attempt to do so, and it always fails.
We try over and over and over and over, whether you want to consider it in this lifetime or you believe in reincarnation, and we try over and over and over. We try this to get it right. We try our will over. We're not convinced that one time wasn't enough. We're not convinced that one failed marriage isn't enough. We got to get 4 or 5 just to make sure. If you're in this room, I can assure you, you're closer than you think to the recognition that I recognize it always fails and I don't want to try any more. I'm done with that. You don't get this far, and you certainly don't show up here. Watch this. If you're still really, really convinced you got your own thing going on. So he doesn't just start with asking us to be humble. He's just going to throw the gauntlet down. So do you know how to make a star? I mean, I can show you. My mind was like, yeah, star. Of course, that's not what he's talking about. Do you know how to give birth to a leaf? Well, no, of course, we don't know any of this. But it takes great humility to accept that truly. You know, I've done a dialogue on what is love, and that human love is actually hate. Because human love we give to some and take away from others. That's not love. Anything that's not all across the board the same isn't love. And I had someone call, I know what love is. You know, because we think we've experienced love. We've never experienced love until we, express this love again. The point is, are you willing to not know? If you're willing to not know truly, and I don't just mean saying the words. I mean truly go, gosh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do any of those things. And you spend your whole day. All the things you think you're doing, do you really know how you're doing them? How is anything happening? Rest in the humility. Rest in the humility. It becomes rest. I mean, how hard is it to not know something? Look at all the activity in your mind. All that's the activity of trying to know, trying to figure out, trying to get it. That's why you come home at the end of the day and you're exhausted, because you've burned up an enormous amount of energy trying to get it, trying to figure it out. You don't expend any energy in the silence, just listening. God's doing all the talking. That's the source of energy. All you're doing is receiving. Are you willing to say, I don't know? I've done a dialogue on the eraser, the clean slate. When I erased everything, even the body, everything, because I didn't know what anything was. And then love was able to come start expressing that. So the way of the heart is that which corrects perception and brings right-mindedness. That was the whole ascend and sit at the right hand of God the Father. Is that you're in your right mind, meaning I don't know a damn thing, and love is going to inform me and express through me. That's right-mindedness. That's sitting at the right hand of God the Father. And that's not just Jeshua's seat, that's everybody's seat when you're ready to take it. Your opinions will come to mean nothing to you whatsoever. Just listen to almost every conversation you're in. Are you not expressing opinion after opinion after opinion? And don't you really like to get on your soapbox about some of them? And just look at how many opinions you have of other people's opinions. Wow! When you don't know anything, there's nothing to defend. That's peace. There's nobody to convince. That's peace. Let those who have ears to hear or eyes to see, see. That's peace. We're not proselytizing. We're not pushing anything on anybody. Or else. Your truth is already true. You can't lose it. There is no or else. Sleep as long as you want or wake up. Your choice. And out of that grand emptiness, the Buddhists call it the void, the nothingness, the nada. Out of that, all of creation is arising. Not just that which appears to be within your being. You're going to get to the point where you recognize there is no inside or outside. All of creation, multidimensionally, is arising within the I am that you are. That's worth giving a real hard look at, rather than going, you know what things are. And just look at how much in your mind you label and identify. I know that's a tree. What if it's actually God expressed that you could commune and communicate with? But you don't ever get to that possibility because you've already said it's a tree. And you move on. Just look at how limiting your definitions and labels are. They're all words that have covered up the infinite mystery that's there, so you could say, I know what that is. I think Rumi or somebody, maybe it was Krishna said, or Krishnamurti, when a child sees a bird, and someone says that's a bird, the child will never see the bird again. It won't have a mysterious experience of not knowing. It will say bird, and the mystery's all gone. So just look at that constant activity of labeling in your mind and go, do I really know what that is? I mean, who picked the word tree? You know, somebody just made it up at some point. Why couldn't it have been Cadillac? I mean, so all those things are simply made up. But we've all agreed that the definitions will mean the same to us because we're playing the same game of imprisonment. Whew. So that the exquisite and infinite love and power of the Creator, that is God, can express through you until you swear that's all there is. I mean, He's making this very, very big, and He's inviting us to accept it. And it didn't take a lot of logic for us to recognize, you know, I don't really know. I wonder if it'd be worth finding out if all that's true. Whew. And enlightenment is the end of separation. And you'll know you're just moved like the wind. Some mysterious force moves you to do things and say things and go places and create expressions of love so that other people can awaken, and you won't know how any of it happens because you don't have a plan. You sit down to, you know, when this work started, it's not like I pulled up my business mind and put together a whole business plan on one who wakes. I didn't have a friggin' clue, and I still don't. I get a flyer 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and I don't know what's going to come till we all sit down here together. Seems to be working out pretty good, though. I'm sure having a great time.
Peace, then, be with you always. Let peace pervade your being at all times, and know that you are safe in the love of God that arises from that great source of mystery and would move through you with every breath you breathe and every word you speak, until you hear only that impetus of guidance that wells up from the depth of your being as a gentle voice that you trust completely, and you will know the freedom that you seek. And with that, indeed, we will leave you now. Yet we go nowhere, for you already abide where we are. Trust this, know this, rely on this, and explore the way of the heart. And by such exploration, you will come to know the truth of love. Be you therefore at peace, beloved friends. Amen.
Let peace pervade your being at all times. Peace is pervading your being at all times because God is present as your being at all times. If you're not at peace, you have chosen out of your infinite power to deny the peace and make for yourself a very lousy substitute. And we do it to ourselves over and over and over. So if you're not at peace, you have left the kingdom to create your own distinctly separate experience. And it sucks. And you're always doing that to yourself. No one is doing that to you. Back to axiom number 1, you're sourcing your own experience. Do you want to source your experience from the peace of God that is always present, or from the chatterbox of your ego mind that judges and condemns and has all kinds of separate stuff going on? Until you hear the impetus of the guidance that wells up from the depth of your being as a gentle voice that you trust completely. Do you know how much trust Jeshua had when he heard the gentle voice say, "Walk upon the water"? And he just stuck his foot out and did it. That's trust. Damn. Because all distrust, all belief in the things of the world had gone, so that love could move through him in ways that a body mind would go impossible and would shudder in fear and stop and hesitate. That's what we're being offered. That love is prepared to live each and every being's life. That's friggin' cool. You in, Stephen? You're in? Anybody else in? Great. So peace is always with you. If you're seeking peace, just know, oh shit, I would have had to denied it to go seek it. Let me just rest into it. Silence is always there. All your disturbance comes when you chatter away out of the silence. So just stop talking. Stop thinking. People say, I can't. Yes, you can. Can you not stop words coming out of your mouth? Everybody has at least some ability to do that. Thinking is nothing but talking in your mind. You can stop that just as effortlessly as you shut your mouth. If you recognize there's no difference. The only difference is you let this move or not. So if you can stop this, you can also stop that incessant stream. Not through power or force, just through the simple recognition that, oh my gosh, I do have the power to stop that. So peace, therefore, be with you. And we are already where He is. He is already where we are. This is all happening in a place of no placeness. There's nowhere to go. All of us who are wanting to wake up to get out of here, to leave the earth and ascend into some heavenly, that's completely not the point. The point is to bring heaven through God's love, through your right surrendered mind, right here. Bring heaven to earth. If you're trying to get away from here, that's the ego's got you running around in circles going completely the wrong way. You can be in heaven, being loved and informed right here. And He's going to tell us a secret in the next lesson that if you don't do it here, you get to come back until you do it here. That's the way out of this dimension. So anyway, thank you, Jeshua. Next week we will listen to the channeling of lesson number 6, Love Heals All Things. Any questions or comments tonight? Okay. Love offering. There's a lot of love that comes through this pathway because Jeshua listened to his father, to his creator, and said, I don't know how to help my brothers wake up, so tell me, and I'll tell them. I'm grateful to him for listening. I'm grateful to you for wanting to wake up and desiring the truth of your being. The only thing that this family does is love. All our bills are paid through your loving support, and I am dependent completely on love. And when Jeshua said, when you do this work, you have to give it away. Unless you're at a place where it costs you to do it, you cannot charge for love. But love will express and pay for itself. So I put it completely on you and your guides. If you feel so moved, there's a basket on the other side of the fireplace. If you're watching online, you can go to onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a give button. Click that and it can take a donation from anywhere in the beautiful world. Let's see what else we got. Oh, exciting. We're doing another retreat. Some of you in the room came to our retreat in May. It was the 7 giant strides. Jeshua said, I'm ready to play. So we're doing I am awake to love and joy, a playful awakening retreat. Not heavy, but playful. Playing in the kingdom. All this information is on the website at One Who Wakes. You can take a look at it there. And let's see what else. Oh, cool stuff on the website. You can now access all videos and live stream on our webpage, so you don't have to run around to all those other sites. If anybody's here and wants to be on the mailing list, there's a sign-up sheet on the other side of the fireplace or on the One Who Wakes homepage. That's enough for now. All beings are participating in all this work because there's only one and we're all it. So we're grateful, 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 more than you will ever know for your decision to awaken. And you can never know the amount of help that is expressing to support you in that effort. I'm grateful that it brought you here. I'm grateful to our Creator and to Jeshua. We love all of ourselves with an absolutely infinite love and a perfect, beautiful, endless, eternal peace. Good night. I'd love hugs on the way out.